Me.
Always, like every time it goes live, Scott
Right.
automatically says something because I'm getting ready to do the intro.
Me.
Yeah.
You know,
We wait.
getting ready to break into the song.
Hi guys, hi everybody. Hello, how are you? We're
live.
here.
We're doing a very professional live promo. Okay, Josh, do it, Josh.
Hey, we're live. Welcome. It is season 2, episode 42. Welcome to another episode of Thursday Night Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with my co-host Scott Moon, and tonight the best-selling author of the Ixon Prophecies and the Unable to Die series, Scott Bartlett, returns to the show. He's been writing and publishing since 2011, and tonight he joins us to talk about the art of selling paperback books. Scott, welcome back to the show.
Hey everybody, great to be back.
Good to see you here, Scott. I'm glad that you're consuming some adult beverages there. The brand name of the beer, which is yet to be determined.
It's the
I have
beer.
No Name beer. It's such a generic beer that I'm embarrassed to admit that I'm drinking. But just pretend that this has a cool beer brand. My go-to is a local brewery, Kitty Vitty. So if you happen to live in Newfoundland, Canada, then I recommend Kitty Vitty.
No, we're there, man. Road trip. Let's go right now.
Funny known thing, they have what is it? A kitty what?
Kitty Vitty.
Kitty Vitty. Now that I think about it, it's QUIDI. VIDI. It's like a lake nearby. I guess that's what they named it after.
Kitty Vitty.
That's actually pretty
so. They have a funny named beer, and their time is off by half an hour. So
it's true. It's an alternate dimension. That's why I write sci-fi.
And they have geothermal power there, or am I thinking of Iceland?
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish.
I always get confused about Iceland and Greenland. Which one's the cold one?
Greenland's a cold one, strangely.
That messes me up every time.
I bet you there's a lot of coldness going on in both of those places at times. So.
Everybody,
there you go.
Everybody in the live chat, I want to say that Terry Tomes won tonight on the first post.
Oh, I'm gonna scroll back. Yep.
Again, the prize is to be announced. Congratulations, though, you won.
One place on the internet where posting first is meaningful.
It's your winner.
That's right.
Winner.
And you won.
and Terry also released a book today that did super well. Shot up the charts in your sci-fi category.
Oh yeah, The Reluctant Emissary. Congratulations, Terry. On your release.
Congrats.
TM Tombs on Amazon, I believe, is the pen name there. If you're gonna search for it on Amazon, if you're watching the show later.
That's right. Oh, you know what? I'll link it in the show notes just because we mentioned it. Because I'm a nice guy.
That's awesome.
And I'm gonna link it in the live chat. Boom. Done.
There you go. So you can do that because you got host powers. We should probably get on with some type of shuttle related.
Phenomenal cosmic powers.
Phenomenal cosmic. And for not to do a spoiler, but definitely a hint for later, Josh will have a super special effect that he will be using in the show.
Oh, don't forget.
Brand new tech, and he's probably going to forget because he's going to be like me because I forget stuff.
It's going to be the one thing that's going to destroy the internet. But before we destroy the internet, let's talk about what we've been up to this week. Scott, what's going on with you?
Which Scott?
Oh, God. I forgot it's Scott Squared because this is the second time that we've had a Scott Squared show. Mm-hmm. Scott Moon.
The red-hatted Scott.
No,
I was just.
Aren't you the dragon? Are you the dragon? Is that what we decided last time?
Yeah, last time I could just be Bigfoot. I think maybe this time I'll be Bigfoot.
I like
it
dragon
is
better.
Prophecy foretold.
Yeah, right, there you go.
Prophecy foretold. Dragon, what have you been up to this week, my friend?
Well, Dragon has been writing on a super secret project a lot this week. I got 2 really nice things done. I really like it. I can't wait till we can talk about that. The most exciting thing was I was given a super special project for Keystroke Medium, and I was supposed to start our show notes for developing our award show that I think we're going to go forward with that. We'll have tons of details, but we got a couple of really great ideas that might involve reaching out to some people we know as being a part of this and sponsoring it. And so that was the cool thing, because that's what I was supposed to do. But I didn't do that because I came home from work and Jen says, "Hey, I rented Logan, and if you want to watch it, you need to watch it before the show so we can return that and not have to pay the late fee. So I just watched Logan, and I'm just big mess of emotions. I don't really know how I'm going to process the show because I haven't figured out how I feel about
No spoilers
about Logan. I know I don't want to spoil it for people, but pretty intense. So I really like that. It's really good.
It's a great movie. I like
it. So
Scott B.
What about the Scott not wearing the red hat? What did you get up to this week?
Well, I didn't wear a red hat, clearly.
Indeed.
Well, I participated in a certain giveaway. I don't know if we want to wait to plug that until we flash
go ahead.
Plug it twice, 3 times.
SciFiBridge.com. Awesome giveaway. If you like free books, I suggest you head over there and sign up for the giveaway.
Indeed.
I've also I've gotten the audio rolling some more for the Ixon Prophecies. So I burned through books 2 and 3 in terms of just like listening through it for like anything that needs to be edited and stuff. So that should be out in a month or 2. And Mark Boyette, my narrator, did a fantastic job. So it's fun for me too to hear it in audio. It's kind of a different way to experience my own work.
Yeah.
Not that I usually go back and read my own books, but
yeah, proof listening can be an interesting time depending on
definitely
how you your narrator. And then people don't know what you're talking about. Hey, I'm going to go do some proof listening. Gonna kick back with the cold kitty vitty and do some proof listening.
So cool.
It is a good thing there. So
I actually didn't know the term proof listening. Now I know what to call that.
Yeah, I make stuff.
It's good to have a name for it.
I make stuff all the time. So probably the next thing I need to do is to ask Josh, what are you up to?
Oh, you didn't do it correctly.
I didn't give a good lead in for it.
You got to okay, ready go.
1, 3, 2, 1. Josh, what are you doing?
What are you up to, Josh? Oh my God. It's not like we rehearsed.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was awesome. I'm gonna replay that awesome. And replay that. Awesome. So for those of you that aren't in the loop, they were supposed to harmonize and sing it together.
Technically that is a harmony because any 2 notes that are not the same are technically a harmony.
Those were definitely not the same notes.
Not in unison. They were syncopated. You get bonus extra credit for that. Just this is the type of quality you get from coming to listen to Thursday night.
Yeah, you did not come for a musical. What have I been up to? I started Rhett Bruno's book, The Circuit. He was on the show 2 Thursday nights ago talking about Sci-Fi Bridge and talking about his books. And he pinned The Circuit as a Firefly-esque type adventure. And so I bought it and I started reading it, and it's pretty good. I do recommend it. I'm probably about 10 or 15% in. Pretty decent book. We talked about a couple weeks ago me trying out for the Bomb Squad. I did make the Bomb Squad.
You did make the Bomb Squad. So you can blow stuff up and get paid for it.
I can blow, and that Tuesday we're blowing up cars, so that should be super fun.
I just write fiction about that. You get to do it.
Yeah.
Where do you get the cars at that you're going to blow up? I mean, you just steal them, or do you have to buy them on your credit card, or you just?
I was just gonna come grab yours.
My car needs to be blown up. I'm telling you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I have no idea where the cars come from. I just know that they show up and then we blow them up. So I guess that's all part of it. So.
Plausible deniability right there. I don't know. I was just following orders. They said blow that El Camino up, and I blew it up.
That's right. So, but that's all I've been up to this week. Is not a whole lot. It's been pretty relaxed. I wrote 3 or 4 scenes on my secret project and got them approved, and so we're moving forward with a couple scenes this week, and I just got news that our superhero anthology that I'm in with Steve Bollier is going to be available for advanced reader copy here pretty soon, maybe in the next week or 2. So that might be cool. If you're interested in an advanced reader copy, get with me at private message me or whatnot, and I'll see that you get one. It's basically the the anthology that I'm in is a superhero one, and then there's a matching book that is super villains, basically. So there's two anthologies that are going to come out at the same time. One's based on villains, one's based on heroes, and so that was a pretty interesting project. So we'll see.
Yeah, I like you want to see that.
But tonight, and I don't know if there's going to be paperbacks, but if there were paperbacks,
what would you do with them?
What would you do to sell those paperbacks? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight a little bit.
Topic.
God, like I do this like a pro. So Scott, last time you were on the show back in April, on our live interview show on Mondays, and you mentioned starting off selling your books as paperbacks, and that was very intriguing because it's kind of different from the normal route of selling ebooks and then getting paperbacks and then going to sell them. So for those of our viewers that maybe missed our last episode or don't know anything about who you are and what you write, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and your writing?
Totally, yeah. So I've been writing since I was 15 years old. I've hopped. My first was a medieval comedy novel. Going. Fiction I've written. I did a dystopian cyberpunk and a dystopian satire, another novel combination. Mostly nowadays I just write various flavors of sci-fi and huge into space opera, military sci-fi right now. And that's probably what I'll be writing for the foreseeable future.
So as far as the Ixian prophecies, is that military sci-fi, space opera, or something else? Or tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, mostly those genres. That one, in a nutshell, 20 years ago, the allied alien species, including humans, defeated the main bad guy alien. And to defeat, they put out what are called the Ixian prophecies, which foretell the downfall of humanity. When Supercarrier Book 1 starts, the prophecies have started to come true. Uh-oh.
Oh, no. I hope it doesn't involve a kitty vitty in those prophecies.
Well, you're asking me to spoil it now.
Yeah. That happens.
which is funny. I think the last guest on the show kept spoiling his books, and then after spoiling him, he would say, "Oh yeah, spoiler alert."
Oh yeah, by the way, spoiler alert.
I can neither confirm nor deny the presence of kitty vitty in the Ixian prophecies.
Right. It may or may not be central to the plot. We don't really know. Could be.
So you mentioned that you started writing kind of a comedic novels in the type of fiction that was medieval and then you have the finished the Ready to Die series. What was the first one that you published that you sold as a paperback?
That would be the medieval comedy novel Royal Flush.
Okay.
And as you mentioned before, my path to selling was sort of unique, especially among indie authors. It was in-person print book sales. And I actually managed to go full-time on in-person print book sales. Now, that meant paying the bills and not a whole lot else. Going out to eat every now and then. I wasn't, they weren't flying off the table, but I was able to do a decent full-time living off local print book sales.
Okay, so let me ask just a couple of basic questions. So if you're going to print so obviously you probably have a stockpile of books if you're doing that. Because you got to sell pretty good volume of books and you're going places to sell them. So starting out, if somebody was doing that, would they go with Lightning Press or CreateSpace or one of the other or something else? What would be a good way to get print books that you could sell for profit?
Yeah, I've researched this different printers pretty extensively, and I haven't found anything that compares with. I went with Lightning Source originally, but now I don't think they accept indies anymore. But Ingram Spark is cheaper anyway. The upfront costs are about half, if not less. But another key piece of advice that I give when it comes to ordering print books is to, if you can, order them in bulk and take advantage of Ingram Spark's bulk discounts. I think they start at 250 copies and they get bigger with certain increments, like 250, 500, 1,000, and I've never ordered more than 1,000. But one thing I recommend is if you can, what I did is to start a publishing fund, and you can build up slowly. So you can order 250 and then devote your profits to then sort of figure out how much per copy you need to devote to it to replenish it over time. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, I get that. Yeah, you are.
Yeah. So basically start a fund, and this is going to be your capital investment going forward. And as long as you're continuing to replenish that off of your sales, and you should be good in the long term.
Did you start out with did you go get a loan to do the original printing, or did you start off with like a very small amount of books to sell? How did you start that whole setting that money aside?
Well, for my early 20s, I sort of just around, my goal is to be a full-time writer come hell or high water. So I used to work full-time for like months and sometimes like over a year at a time, and just be super frugal and bank as much money as I could to then go to write full-time until I basically ran out of money. And I kept doing that until the business grew to a point where I could just definitely. So it was more of a slow build.
Okay.
And so when you start Paperbacks, and I'm picturing like in New York, they stand on the sidewalks and they have their racks set up, but probably you didn't do that. How did you go about starting to do that? So back in 2011, the ebook market wasn't really taking off. Was that even a thought in your head to do ebooks, or did you just, I want to do paperbacks and we'll go from there?
It was a thought. And I think that spring, I think it was that KDP Select free run bonanza, where people just, if they had a series and did free runs of them, it was gangbusters, and the tactic has never been that effective since. But around the time that was happening, and like it kills me to think this, but I was like, I should really try ebooks, and just like, no, I didn't know about any of this. I didn't have any kind of strategy. So I kind of like put them up as an ebook, and it flopped. And like my ebooks continued to flop until like my 7th or 8th book.
That's what we were talking about, I think, before the show, is that it took a few to get that going. Guy Anthony DeMarco says he sells a lot of paperbacks at conventions where he's on panels. So when you sell books, because I'm imagining like you just take your books and you tackle somebody on the street and you hold them down and then eventually they want to buy your book. But maybe there's a better way. I don't know if you go to like conferences, or do you have trade shows, or so what was your strategy for actually, now you've got the books and you're going to take them out and sell them to people?
I'm not above the street tackling, but
I think it's an underutilized sales technique. Although there might be
definitely would not see you coming.
Exactly. It's a real plot twist.
Right. Just for the record, we're not recommending anybody does that. That's completely illegal. Anyway, so moving away from those tactics.
A little disclaimer, there's probably not a bad idea. Yeah.
There you
go. So the way I got started with it was sort of by accident. I used to, I was assistant manager for like half a summer at my local farmers market.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if farmers markets in other places are like this, but I was looking around my local farmers market. If you don't know much about Newfoundland, it's really hard to grow vegetables here. So we yes, we have some farmers with like produce and stuff, and certainly, but there's also a lot of like random like crafts people and like woodworkers and baked goods and stuff. And there was also a local publisher there. my assistant manager thing, which mostly meant setting up and tearing down tents and making sure everyone stayed nice and caffeinated. I was in charge of the coffee. But so my book I mean, there'd be chaos without coffee.
Right.
But I knew the consequences of letting those carafes go dry. But so anyway, my last month there, Royal Flush, the medieval comedy, comes out, and they're nice enough to let me put it on the counter of the coffee station on a little stand. And I didn't really push it because my job was to, keep everyone caffeinated, not to keep them supplied in literature. But I did sell a few copies, and I was kind of looking around. I was like, hey, I should come back here next year as a vendor. Sort of cool, and I don't think many people are doing this because, I mean, yes, you see your local publishers, and you see at your bigger events, you see, Ingram, or I guess in the States, Barnes and Noble, and they'll have, booths. But not often will you see an author who's just at an event all day, at least not in my experience. The city I'm in is relatively small too. But it seems like a unique situation to just have an author there all day with his or her own personal bookstore with just their books. And the indie publish thing, as we'll get into, is a huge factor too. Mm-hmm. Just because the profit margins are so much bigger than if you were a traditionally published author. But yeah, basically I scaled up from there, and I went from farmer markets to, I tried everything, like flea markets, every sci-fi convention locally now. And when I full time was when I started doing the Christmas craft fairs here locally.
Okay.
Sorry, Scott, I'm curious about the craft fairs, the Christmas craft fairs. What was it about that was a catalyst for you going full time?
It was the audience, and something I recommend too is when you're doing this, especially if you have a lot of books, you should, before you order any books, you should think about what events you have access to, and which of your books would do best at those events. So the Christmas craft fair is mostly numbers. And just to give an idea, I live in a city of around 100,000 people. Mm-hmm. So it's not that big. And I was able to go full time on local print book sales.
Wow.
So for the Christmas craft fair, it was a general public audience, and I think they get, at the biggest one locally, they get 30,000 people going through there over the course of 5 days. So I went with my contemporary novel, which is a novel that deals with mental health issues, which is a real topic these days.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of how I pitched it. I said, this is a novel that deals with mental health issues, about a young man suffering from depression. And a lot of people were fascinated by that. They want to learn more. It's a pretty well-researched book. And I kind of took that angle. And you can even do this with sci-fi, which I mostly write now. Like, if you go to a Christmas craft fair and say, hey, guys, I have a cyberpunk dystopian. Who wants in? You may not sell many books, but the Finish the Light but Unable to Die series, which is my cyberpunk dystopian, that's also about a 91-year-old man who he's done what he's going to do. And he's a lot of people at that age, they just feel like they're ready to move on. And it's nothing, it's nothing too dramatic. And then, hey, he discovers he's immortal. So who weren't sci-fi readers found that interesting enough that I could sell. So it's often how you present it too.
Right. I think we talked about that on your last show, about the twist there with the immortal. Our connection's a little bit wonky there, so we can hear what you're saying, but we're pausing and giving you extra time to answer. So I want you to think like, man, those guys are acting like they're not interested in what I'm saying. We're just trying to be polite. So but, a lot of good stuff there. So
the book that you're talking about is that Taking Stock, the one that you just mentioned? I opened it up while you were talking about it, and we talked about I can't remember who we had on the show. We were talking. Oh, it was Armand Rosamilia, and that was 2 weeks ago on live, and we were talking about opening lines in books. And he had an interesting concept for a book and an interesting opening line. And I like looking at opening lines because it's one of my favorite.
What's the
opening line
in Scott's book?
It's intense. Get ready for this, everybody.
The opening line of Taking Stock, which on the front cover says part disturbing psychological thriller, part dark comedy. It says, Chapter 1. Sam met me in the middle of committing suicide. Is the first line in that book.
You almost have to read the next sentence.
And you're absolutely right. You're like, what? So I really, really like that that opening to that book. I love books that start out like that, and like they say that's the catch for readers is that first page. But sometimes those first lines are just, God, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, you can have. I mean, I think it's important to have a good first line hook, but sometimes you have like a first section hook where, I mean, I think there's different variations because don't have to have like a car chase in the beginning. You have to have a line that engages the readers, but then as it goes forward. So if we can ask Scott, how much time did you put in that line, or is it just what flew out of the typewriter keys?
Well, I worked on Taking Stock for 7 years.
Wow.
Royal Flush too. It's too long, honestly. Could have been 4 years, but so it went. It went through many variations and iterations, and honestly, the mental health angle wasn't even in there until like year 3 or 4, I think. And I just thought the book needed something more to give it that extra oomph and extra appeal. And it really became the book in the end. But another thing I should mention in terms of selling books in person, and that opening line is a strong, huge when you're doing that in-person selling. It's a good part of the selling process and your pitch, if you will.
Say that. I'm sorry. Say that one more time. You cut out just a little bit.
The first line's a strong tool for selling.
Yeah, it's a big asset. People engaged, and it's a good part of what you could call a pitch, for a lack of a better term. And that's another thing about selling.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. So, what if someone was coming up to your table and they pick up Taking Stock? What would you say to them? And then they say, "What's this book about?" What do you tell them? And then they buy it.
One somewhat stark reality of selling books in person as a known author, very few people are going to walk by and recognize, hey, that's Scott Bartlett. Oh my God, let's go buy all his books.
I would say that.
Thank you.
All the books.
I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's Scott Bartlett. Oh my gosh.
You should come to Newfoundland so I can have that happen for the first time.
Buy his books and skip back to
I am on a plane.
Biddy. A good time. So anyway, we were terrible hosts interrupting like that.
Oh no. It's good fun. So first of all, people just don't typically. I mean, it will happen, but if you're going to sell books in any kind of reasonable number, you can't really depend on people coming to you. You sort of have to, without being pushy, you have to have this sort of what I like to call the tractor beam. Sometimes an actual cane works to yank him in. No, again, don't condone that technique.
Yeah. Another with our disclaimers there, but yes,
very violent episode.
You got to draw them. You got to draw them in.
But so I was going to say, so it's all kind of part of the pitch. And what I do is normally, like, you're sitting there, you're watching people go by, and if someone's like looking at you and they look kind of interested, it helps to have an opener. Depending on the event that I'm at, my opener will change. So if I'm at an actual book signing at a store, where obviously, well, I'll back up. So that's at like a Christmas craft fair or an event that caters to the general public. I'll just ask, hey, are you a book reader?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's if they're rushing by, like with a meal or something, or like they clearly don't want to talk to you, then I don't engage. But if they're kind of looking around, looking over and like, looking at your covers, like, hey, you read books? Are you a book reader? It's simple. And that kind of draws them in. If I'm at a bookstore where obviously they're probably a book reader, then I might say,
Right.
do you read sci-fi, or are you a fiction reader? And then that kind of starts the conversation.
Well, it's good information to have when you're starting a conversation about books.
So after you pull them, oh, go ahead, Scott.
I was just saying, I mean, it sounds simple, but it's good information to have. If you were like trying to get metrics out of your newsletter or out of an advertisement that you put on Facebook, you'd want to target readers. So so, I mean, it's very direct and I like it.
Yeah,
exactly. You need to identify your target market, and it's harder to do in person. So you have to have that. Yeah.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Maybe.
Are you a book reader? This is going to be awkward for both of us, but can I ask you a personal question? Are you a book reader? Something like that. That's what I would use.
Yeah, that would probably work, because humor is a really important tool too, honestly.
So what after you pull them in and then you ask me, are you a book reader? And I say, why, yes, I love reading books. How would you sell I know we're spending a lot of time on this book, this specific topic, but I think I've only done one. Wasn't even really a conference. It was just kind of a whole bunch of people with books on a table in a university deal. And I felt really awkward doing it, and I didn't know what to say. So after you say, hey, do you read books? Now where do you go from that? If you pick up, well, for the sake of argument, taking stock, and you say, if you read books, read this one because this is mine and I get money for it if you buy it. Like, so
I would think you're really swell.
Yeah, I'll be your best friend.
See, that might actually work because it's funny. And just so you feel better, when I first started doing this, I felt awkward as hell too. Okay. And that didn't go away for a while. It takes practice. I mean, we're writers. We tend to be introverts. I'm definitely an introvert. So it takes some practice to get out there and put yourself out there. And also to realize that it's okay to talk yourself up. And if you're at an event selling things, people don't expect you to be hyper humble. You're not going to be like, oh, you don't need to read these. These, you're fine with that. I mean, I'm sure you're going to be perfectly happy without reading these books. You actually, it's important, and people expect you to highlight the strong points of the book. And this is what I call, this might be a good time to mention that I have a book on this on Amazon.
Oh yeah.
Which is currently, which is currently 99 cents and in Kindle Unlimited. So it's about as accessible as I can make it. It sells in person, Scott Bartlett, if you want to go check that out and pick it up. But the way, it's just easier for me to mention that because it's easier for me to reference that and say the way that I break it down in the book is the opener, which is, are you a book reader, or some equivalent, follow up, and then I say the closer, which is pretty basic sales technique, but you need to think about this and have it in advance, and it sort of helps you circumvent some of the initial awkwardness, which I went through, which hopefully we can help people avoid. And then there's the follow-up optional phase, the final phase, which is the upsell if you have multiple books. But so I guess we're in the follow-up stage, and what I would do then is highlight something good about the book. So Taking Stock won a couple of awards, so it was hard to brag about it at first, but I say in the book, repeat after me, my book is the best book in the universe. It will change your life. It will save your marriage. It'll
there you go. It's like a morning after
your growth. It'll increase your
it'll increase your tolerance, way to hold your kitty vitty or whatever.
Exactly, which is key.
Time. Yeah, which is key.
No name.
Key to being socially successful is not to pass out face down in the yard. Not like I've ever done that, but moving right along. So it's like a morning affirmation. It's like, this is a good book, and I'm going to buy it. I'm going to sell this book.
That's right.
Well, and because people want to be interested, so you get your hook. You tell them about the book. I know we always talk about the one sentence tagline or the elevator pitch. So if somebody, have you ever had an experience where somebody says, well, so what do you write, or what's your book about? And then that awkward kind of and then you're trying to explain what your book's about.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I would suggest thinking about that in advance and how you're going to characterize your book and how you're going to highlight the interesting parts of the plot. That, like, when I say pitch, I don't mean you're like, this is taking stock and it is a multi-award winner and it's really good, or whatever you're going to say. Like, be prepared to deviate from your pitch and be prepared for like the fact they're going to ask you different questions and all of these different edge cases are going to come up. And eventually, after years of doing it, you will be like a robot and you will have answers for everything. But it's also fine and it's also advisable to improvise and have like that real human conversation, because ultimately, in the end, they don't know you. They don't know your books. What they're buying into right now is a connection.
Right.
So whether that's your shared love of books, whether that's the fun conversation you're having or the laughs that you're sharing or whatever, what you're selling initially, frankly, is a memory. It's an experience. It's a meaningful connection between book lovers. And now that they've had that and they've met you and they like you, you are now buy your book.
So you mentioned being a robot earlier, just a couple seconds ago. When you get into your kind of rhythm as you're going, the one convention that I was at, the guy, like 2 tables down and 1 table across from me, like, he was selling these fantasy books, and every time somebody walked up to his table, he would do what you're mentioning. Oh, do you like fantasy books? Well, let me tell you about this. And every time it was the same spiel, no matter what, like, blah, 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 like you were reading it off of Amazon. And is that something for me, as a person that sat there for 8 hours listening to the same spiel? Like, the first time I heard it, I was like, yeah, that's cool. But the 82nd time I heard it, I was like, I don't want to hear it anymore. So do you go into, like, when we mentioned conventions, but I kind of want to ask about bookstores too, because I think that is a good place, and I don't know if you've had any experience with them, but do you think that you should have that canned download of your series, that you're just kind of regurgitating all this information and it's the same every time? Do you kind of recommend that, or do you think, like you said, improvise and kind of go with it? What do you think?
Well, I don't recommend sounding canned.
Right.
But I do recommend having those like pre-prepared sort of snippets. So I think there's a balance to be struck, basically. First of all, like, I can empathize with, like, you as his neighbor, like a robot. But one consideration is he wasn't trying to sell books to you, and every person that came up to his table was a new person who was hearing it for the first time, and hopefully, it doesn't sound like it, maybe not, but hope it sounded natural to them.
Right.
That said, wasn't there, but if you're same thing every time, I think you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot too, because A, I think you're losing that human element of the conversation and the meaningful connection, and B, I think it's important to constantly improvise and experiment, because otherwise you're going to be stuck with the same old pitch and you're never going to get better and increase your sales.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right.
Yeah, working on your skill set. I had a question when you first were talking about that. So that goes along kind of with what Josh is saying. You're talking about the human element and that connection, the personal connection. Do you think that is different between fiction and nonfiction books? Because, like, in nonfiction, a lot of times you're like, you write a nonfiction book to solve a specific problem and you can pitch that. But in fiction, I mean, I know I've struggled with that, and I've heard lots of people ask, how do I market my fiction? So is that human element, is it more important for one or the other, or how would you use it?
It's a hard question for me to answer because I haven't tried this with nonfiction, but I have done some thought, and I speak to it a bit in the book. And I think selling nonfiction in person could be really powerful if you choose your events in a really targeted way.
Right.
So if you're going to like a home decorating show and you have a book on feng shui, for example, home decor or something like that, or if you have, it's a woodworking convention or a job fair, you could have a book on applying for jobs and revamping your resume.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but in terms of the human connection, I would argue that fiction is probably more important I'm sure it's important either way, because you're the author, you're there, and they're getting to know you before they get to know your books.
Yeah. Lost my train of thought. That was kind of that question sounded a lot better when I was thinking it in my head, because of course you got to have a human connection with both people, making Josh laugh, and that'd be a good time to point out that he's got a sunburn. I'm just throwing it out there.
Oh, nice.
Just throwing it out there.
40 minutes in, and they're like, "Look at this red guy right here."
No, but go ahead, Josh.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna go now.
Psych. So
it sounds like you acquired that sunburn in the coolest way possible, like blowing up cars.
No, I just didn't wear my hat for the week, and I usually wear a hat, and I forego wearing the hat this week, and so my forehead is all. I burn like a lobster. I could go out to the lake for 5 minutes and then come back, and I'm just the reddest person in the world, and I don't tan. So I hate everybody that goes to the lake and just burn that one time and you'll be good for the season. I'm like, I don't understand. I don't do that. I burn and then I peel for 2 weeks, and then after I'm done peeling, I go and burn again.
Doing that wrong. So
apparently I'm doing it wrong.
So you should probably work your sunburn story into selling books, like somehow,
the only year I did not sunburn was when I went to the tanning booth and tanned for like 6 months before I went to the lake. I don't know how that associates into selling books, but
I'm sure it does. I bet you it does.
I do want to kind of.
I think you just need to avoid the lake. Sounds like the lake.
Maybe it's the wrong lake.
Yes,
you're drinking the wrong generic, non-nameable beer.
I should probably just stay in my basement then. I would like to transfer a little bit to talking about your marketing for your new trilogy that is out now, and the differences between that. Before we go there, I would like to talk about the sponsor of this episode, which is we mentioned it before, Sci-Fi Bridge. Sci-Fi Bridge also sponsored our Monday live episode, and we posted a link in the live chat earlier. Sci-Fi Bridge is a newsletter. And I'll just read the copy here. Sci-Fi Bridge is dedicated to bringing you exclusive deals, new releases, and other exciting news from your favorite sci-fi authors straight to your inbox. In order to celebrate the Bridge's recent launch, its captains are excited to bring you the 4th massive book giveaway. There are free prizes available for all who enter between May 20th and May 27th. So live, you have 2 days. And I'm sure this will not be in audio before the 27th. So if you're listening to it on iTunes, you probably missed it. There will be another one. You do have a win. There is a chance for 5 winners to receive 30 plus ebooks from sci-fi authors of every stripe, including myself and Scott B, who is on the show tonight.
Hey.
One lucky grand prize winner will receive 20 signed paperback books, including bestsellers from Will McIntosh, M.D. Cooper, who's also been a guest on the show, and the full Gnog series by Chris Fox, who has also been on the show. And you'll get the ebooks, I guess, before the release. So you can enter for all that at www.scifibridge.com. The link will be in the video description, and I'm going to copy and paste it again in the live chat. I did before, but I'm going to do it again because I'm a nice guy. I am giving away 2 signed paperback books, and they are the first 2 books in my Second Star series, which are out of print now. You cannot get them anywhere, so they're very rare,
and they millions of dollars.
They will literally be worth $1 million. And
don't you do it?
So if you get them, and I'm going to count them out and then number them. And so there'll be numbered signed copies. And then Scott B is also giving 2 signed books to this giveaway. Would you like to share which books you're giving away, or is that super secret?
No, it's a Super Carrier and Flight or Fight.
Very cool.
It was super secret, but not anymore.
It was.
Now
it's out there.
We're full of spoilers tonight.
Very cool. So that being said, check out Sci-Fi Bridge. It's a very cool deal. They do giveaways. I want to say they do one every quarter, but that might not be right. I'm not sure exactly how many times they do giveaways, but they do them. And you can't beat that deal. I mean, 30 ebooks and 20 signed books. I don't know where you could beat that deal from.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of shift the conversation a little bit now. The last time you were on the show was April 17th, and your 3rd book in the Ixen Prophecies trilogy was getting ready to come out, and now it is out. So I'd like to talk a little bit about Lauren. She says, Josh said doo-doo. And I did. And actually, I thought about it right before I said it. I was like, oh, God, I'm about to say
you couldn't
doo-doo.
stop, could you?
I could not stop. Could not stop at all. Hat tip to Lauren, by the way. She's doing the show notes and the blog for this episode. Thank you, Lauren, very much. Clap, clap, clap.
Good job for Lauren Moore.
So with the ebook trilogy, which is Super Carrier, Juggernaut, and Reckoning now. Tell us a little bit about the marketing that kind of went into this series. And I know that you said you wrote it as a trilogy. And can you talk a little bit about how it's released and how it's going now?
Totally. So in terms of the marketing, I started thinking about marketing before I wrote Word 1. And I took this sort of right to market approach and read a bunch of books to see what had been done and to see how I could bring something new to the table while still staying true to what readers expected in terms of the tropes and whether I wanted to follow them or subvert them. And also I thought about how books were presented in this genre and what the signals were to the readers that, hey, this is something that you will like. So giant space, pretty standard in space opera, military sci-fi. And I went to a friend of the show, Tom Edwards.
Oh, yes.
Told him exactly.
The fabulous Tom Edwards.
Fabulous.
Yeah. He's amazing. So I told him what I wanted, and he gave me something way better. He gave me what I wanted plus, as he tends to.
Yeah. Yes.
So, yeah. So I think that was a big draw.
Right. Mm. So you identified something you wanted to write. I thought it was very interesting. You're talking about the tropes, whether to follow the tropes or subvert them. I think that's a cool idea because the tropes are there for a reason. They're a communication tool. They're just part of the language, but you can do different things with them. And then you talk about getting your book cover design right. Is what are some other good things we could do to market our books?
I mean, pretty standard stuff like I think a book description that sings and that really speaks to your genre, as well as that first 10% that Amazon offers up as a free sample. I think right off the bat, from basically paragraph 1, you need to have something that clues the reader in that that this is a book that they in specific is going to love. But in terms of the book description, I will say, to dive a little deeper into it, I think it's important to get those genre keywords as close to the beginning as you possibly can, while still being true to the book and what makes it unique, and while still being intriguing. So if you can, I think you can check all those 3 boxes, I think you're going to do well.
So what's an example of?
So of like I'll give an example of a keyword for a space opera. Something that mentions galaxy, aliens. For military sci-fi, it might be warfare. Yeah, I just wrote the description.
Oh, I'm sorry. The keywords that you're putting that at the front, because for those of you that don't know, Amazon gives you the ability to put 7 keywords into your book when you put it up, and it's not 7 words, it's 7 keywords or key phrases. So you're talking about putting those things at the beginning, or does it matter where they go in?
Well, I'm not. Sorry, I should specify. Like, I'm not really talking about like an SEO or like an optimization perspective, although it certainly does help for that.
Right.
But I'm talking more about giving a signal to the reader right away, like the moment that they glance at your book description and they see that first tagline at the top, they immediately know it's something that they in particular are going to love.
Right.
Okay, so for instance, in the Juggernaut book, it's Captain Keyes has succeeded in forging an uneasy alliance at the cost of making some powerful enemies. Now he's wanted throughout the galaxy.
Galaxy keyword. So, several on there.
Very good. Very good.
So you have allies, galaxy, Captain Keyes, so we know that he's captaining a ship.
Right.
Oh, I would never have thought about that, but yeah, that makes sense.
I read some place a long time ago about search engine optimization, SEO, that it was important to get the keywords in, but also that people are not robots and you can't just write real clunky sentences and phrases. And so your tagline needs to have that information, like you said, but it also needs to sing, and have some flow to it.
Exactly.
Kind of show your character off or your writing style a little bit if possible.
Yeah, I'm writing the book description for the first book in my next series now. And just to give another example, I think the first 2 sentences are stranded in a hostile galaxy, exiled from humanity. So
very cool. Yeah.
So it's natural. It directly pertains to the book, but it has those signals right away that tell the reader that they're going to love your book.
And it's fair to the reader. It's a good service to the reader, because they're not going to read your book and then find out it's a hard-boiled detective mystery and be mad because that's not what was in the description, which sounds like a dumb thing to say, but sometimes you see books on there that are not, especially with covers. You'll see a cover that does not say the right genre.
Right.
I think that's hopefully getting fewer and far betweener.
I'm kind of curious. I kind of want to bring this kind of full circle back to how we started talking about paperback sales. Do you feel that your paperback sales have kind of progressed into your ebook sales? And if they did progress into the ebook sales, how did you manage that?
I don't feel like the paper book sales really fueled my ebook sales at all. And I feel like they're 2 very different skill sets.
Okay.
For selling both. With the strength of selling paperbacks in person is that you as the author are present. You're sort of recapturing the magic of a book signing, and that you have that personal connection with the reader. And you're much better able, you have more time and you have more of their attention than you do online. Online, they're just scrolling through hundreds, if not thousands of books, and you have to grab them with the cover and the description. And more about making a new friend, to not be too cheesy about it, and having that connection, and at the very least having a conversation that they're going to find memorable and special. And hey, I met an author today and he's super passionate about his work. And he presented this book to me in a way that really spoke to me. And whether it's sci-fi, contemporary fiction, or a medieval comedy novel, it's about finding what it is about that genre that they're going to love, which is kind of cool because mostly people tend to stick to their genres. And it's cool if you can get someone to go outside it and realize, hey, sci-fi is really cool, or thrillers are really cool.
Yeah.
I just remembered as you were mentioning that, and as I was closing down my internet window from Facebook, that I did not do the super cool graphic that I had planned for my ad read.
Oh, no.
And do part of the ad read. Just do the part with the graphic.
Now I must do the part with the graphic really quickly.
I probably jinxed you. I'm sorry.
Because when I figured it out, like with all great ideas, I figured it out in the shower. And
you have a computer in the shower?
No.
That sounds dangerous.
But I was standing there thinking, how could I do this?
Amazing.
And so this was the thing that I came up with for the ad read, is that now I have a little graphic here.
Whoa.
That is all of most of the giveaway books for the
you know what the cool
Sci-Fi
thing
Bridge
too is, if you really bungle something, you can hide behind it too.
I know, and I could just be like, you can buy me. So
make that
I am sci-fi.
If you look really close, these are my 2 books here. I'm trying to find Scott's book. Oh, there's Super Carrier up there in the corner.
There it is.
So, and then you've got is it Gockel? I can't remember.
I'm so bad at pronouncing names. Gockel,
so anyway, that was my cool thing, and I completely messed it up because I didn't do it during the ad read, and so now I just wanted to show it because that was cool. So whatever.
It is cool.
Now I'm just gonna go back to my non-graphic.
So actually, we got to play it like 3 different times.
Yeah, look at that.
See,
marketing 101.
There you go, marketing 101 3 times.
If you don't go sign up for Sci-Fi Bridge giveaway now that I showed you the graphic, I don't know what, but I mean something, man.
It takes like seven iterations or something. I read one time.
So, Scott, we're coming to the end of the hour, and as always, it's been a huge success talking with you, and a lot of fun in the live chat, and also just talking with you and learning, just kind of like that there's more than just me that is awkward in selling paperback books in real life. Can you tell our audience where they can find out about you, where they can buy your books, and if they want to, where they could fly to knock on your door and buy a book in person that's completely not weird or creepy?
So my usually unupdated website is scottplots.com. I did recently update it, so it's I think you might be okay to go there now.
Scott Scott, so it's SCOTTPLOTS.com.
Yeah.
I'll go there and check and look right now. Make sure you pick the place
The
up.
world's best speller.
There you go. World's second best.
And I live in St. John, Newfoundland. If you want to come to a local event,
come hang out and see it in action. See all this put to work. And you probably have to, if you travel all the way to Newfoundland, you probably would be best just to buy the whole stack of books, all the books.
I would recommend that. Yeah.
Because otherwise, you make like 10 trips, and it's not gas efficient. It's hard on the environment.
Also, if you go to Newfoundland, apparently it's okay to tackle, leg sweep, and hit people with canes to get them to buy their books. According to Chuck Manley, I'm going to blame it on him.
It's actually encouraged.
It's
illegal not to do it.
It's like a handshake or a hug. It's kind of like you're really rude. Like, how come that guy didn't tackle me?
That's awesome. Guy Anthony DeMarco says, say hello to Mandy DeGeit. I don't know if I pronounced it right. DEGEIT. She lives there.
Mandy DeGeit.
Newfoundland as well. So, man, it's been a great show. Scott, thank you so much for coming back on. That was awesome.
And it's another episode where Josh figures out the technical stuff. He figures out how to do, like, we have the nice little overlays with our names. We have the pop-up graphics. Our guest, he takes care of us.
Pop-up graphics that we did not use.
He has not figured out the button that boots me off of the show yet, which there probably is one.
No, I have that button on speed dial.
See now I have stress. Good. I'm having a good time. So,
it's been awesome being on again, guys.
Yeah, Scott, it's always great to have you on, and I can't wait to have you back on again. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your half an hour off day. I'm not sure how that works out. I don't even want to know how you guys tell time up there, because I said
time travel.
Yeah, just gotta tell it what to do.
That's right.
It is the time that I choose.
That's right.
You got to tackle it.
You got to tackle it.
Tackle it and beat it with a cane. Everybody that was hanging out with us in the live chat, thank you so much for hanging out with us, guys. It's always super fun and super crazy in the live chat. So if you're listening on iTunes or on Podbean and you have not had a chance to experience the KSM live chat, I mean, you're really missing out, and you really need to come hang out with us live. If you're watching, let us know what you think in the comments below. Hit us up on our website or our Facebook channel. You can search Keystroke Medium on Facebook and find us there. We like to hear from you guys. We like to talk. And, man, the chat is the bomb, Terry Toom says. That's right. Ooh, and she worked in a Bomb Squad reference there. Yeah. I'm going to take it as that. And boom.
We're going to blow some cars up.
That's right.
In a post show, we're blowing a car up.
If I come back next week and I'm like, good luck, guys. Look, I had fun. And y'all are laughing at me. So
that would be hilarious if you didn't have any fingers anymore.
That's right. That's right. Well, it's been a great show. For Scott Moon, I am Josh Hayes. We have been live with Scott Bartlett here on Thursday night. Make sure you come back next week. We're going to have Rick Partlow on live and Joshua Dazelle on TNL next week. So come back and hang out with us for that.
Joshua Dazelle is very tall, by the way. I don't know if everybody knows that.
An enormous person, Josh Dazelle.
Yeah, you look at the big giant, and it's going to be a giant.
That's right.
Yeah, and right. Giant, and it's going to be Josh squared.
That's right. Oh, that's right. It's going to be Josh squared. Nice.
Revenge of the Joshes.
That's right. A pound of Scots into the ground. So, yeah, guys, come back and hang out with us next week. We're going to talk a little bit about reading. We're going to talk a little bit about writing, and, of course, everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. You guys have a great Thursday night.
See you guys.
See everyone. And we'll